I first met Isabella, my future wife, when I was 24, not 20, as some might assume. After finishing my studies, I took a job as a legal assistant at a construction site. Isabella, on the other hand, worked as a nurse at a nearby hospital. Our connection was sparked through mutual friends, and after a whirlwind romance, we were married just 6 months later. We moved into my mom's modest 3-bedroom apartment, and a year after that, we were blessed with our son Tony. 2 years later, our daughter Harper joined us. Those early years were challenging to say the least. It was a time of hard work and unforgettable memories, but money-waste jobs were few and far between, and we made do with whatever odd jobs we could find. Isabella's nursing salary just covered the essentials, and we struggled, but we did our best then. One day, an old classmate reached out with a job opportunity. He was running a construction business, specializing in building wooden baths, SAS, and gazebos, and there was plenty of work available. The pay was great, and life seemed to improve as the new millennium arrived. Things continued to get better, and my classmate offered to sell me the business without hesitation. I seized the opportunity, and from that moment, our lives really began to change for the better. Isabella decided to leave her nursing career and went back to school to become a cosmetologist. I bought a room for her, and she opened her own beauty salon. Over time, our children grew up fast. Both of them graduated from university. Tony went on to further his studies at the Institute and eventually secured a job abroad. Harper earned a degree in foreign languages and married a man who coincidentally now works for me. They're doing well, and we now have a cherished grandson, followed by a granddaughter. Life is great on their side. My son-in-law is a respectable and courteous young man these days. I've started thinking about passing the reins of the business over to him, so I can finally kick back and enjoy life. To be honest, after all these years of hard work, I'm exhausted. My dream is simple: to live in a country house, grow my own vegetables, and spend time with my grandchildren. But here's the problem. Isabella and I couldn't be more different when it comes to our vision of a peaceful, comfortable retirement. Don't get me wrong, I'm 54 now, and the constant hustle is starting to wear me down, but for Isabella, life is only getting more exciting in her 50s. She's completely reinvented herself. I've gone through all the beauty treatments, and frankly, my face doesn't even resemble the one I used to know, but I'm not some grumpy old man. I take care of myself and believe in living a balanced life. Isabella, on the other hand, seems determined to reverse time. She told me she wanted to experience all the things she couldn't afford when she was younger. She asked me not to bother her with thoughts of grandkids or country life. Of course, I respect her wishes and I want her to be happy. The one thing I did manage to persuade her to do was renovate the country house. She agreed, and not long after, she hired a designer. She showed me the plans and the workers began major renovations. 3 months later, my accountant handed me a hefty bill for the project. I was shocked. It turned out that Isabella had instructed the designer to charge me for his services under the contract I'd signed. I paid the bill, but I couldn't hold back my feelings. I called her up. Isabella, don't you think this designer bill seems a bit excessive, considering the amount of work that's been done, or did you somehow find the most expensive designer in town? I asked more bluntly than I meant to, but I was already frustrated. The repairs weren't finished yet, and I was still going to have to pay anyway. Way, he's the best? Isabella shot back, her tone biting the designer. I couldn't keep the irritation from my voice. You're almost daring me to argue here. I don't like what he did either. And I've already told you that. I said, my frustration rising. It turned out paying for the entire crew was cheaper. Honestly, it's like we're paying him for his looks, not his skills. If you didn't like it, you should have handled it yourself. Isabella snapped back coldly, her words sharp as she hung up lately. It felt like we were living in completely different worlds. Isabella was always caught up in something constantly, studying, always preoccupied, while I was left at home with the kids trying to keep everything together. We had made plans as a family, me, our daughter, and my son-in-law, to spend the summer at the country house. As a final touch, I decided to install a security system to ensure the safety of my loved ones. I found a company, and within days everything was up and running. Now I could monitor the cameras whenever I wanted, just to make sure everything was secure. One day, out of curiosity, I decided to check the footage. I logged in from my work computer, and what I saw made me freeze. There was Isabella looking like she was completely in love, spending all her time with the designer. the young talented man we had hired for the renovations. They were evaluating new work regularly, laughing and talking together clearly, enjoying each other's company. Isabella didn't know I was watching, and that's when it hit me my wife was playing a dangerous game. The designer was barely in his 30s. Half her age. The absurdity of it all made my jaw clench. I couldn't believe what I was seeing when I spoke to Isabella later. It was a short conversation, too short. I simply told her I wished her the best in whatever life she chose. She denied it at first, of course. But when I showed her the footage from the cameras, she couldn't hide the truth anymore. "We love each other," she said quietly, almost shamefully. "This is the love of my life." I stared at her, a sinking feeling in my stomach. Maybe it's true what they say, women aren't foolish because they're truly foolish, but because they're women. It felt like watching an inevitable tragedy unfold. Right before my eyes, I moved to the country soon after, still managing my business, but with the intention of passing it on to my son-in-law. I taught him everything I knew, and he was a natural. I trusted him completely. Meanwhile, Isabella's designer was living a high life at her expense, taking full advantage of her generosity. He reveled in the attention of young, beautiful women, all while pretending to be in love. With my wife, I couldn't help but wonder when she would finally open her eyes to what was really happening. A month ago, my daughter told me the news. "Dad," she said, "he left Mom. He found a better option." Apparently, the designer had moved on to the daughter of a local politician, and surprised she was pregnant with his child. My daughter said that Isabella had been crying, regretting everything, and wanted to come back. But her pride, her shame, kept her from doing it honestly. I didn't care. As for me, I still live outside the city, working at my own pace. I've managed to gradually hand over my business to my son-in-law, who's more than capable of taking over. You know what? I stopped worrying about it all. The kids may not get along with their mom, but that's their problem, not mine.